Lights, camera, action.
Hey guys.
Hey everyone.
Welcome back to the podcast. We hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. At the time of recording, we are doing this pre-Thanksgiving, so I am eagerly anticipating some good Thanksgiving food. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Yeah. But we hope you had some great food, and now you get to enjoy the long weekend and listen to our podcast. So today, we're going to be talking about a movie from our childhood, Night at the Museum with Ben Stiller. My understanding is that this movie is well liked. Like I've never met somebody who's like, it's okay. Like it's definitely not a movie that I'm gonna say like, hey, this is a phenomenal movie.
Right.
But it's a good movie. It's a classic.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Nostalgic.
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So let's go.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give a disclaimer. I am sick, so if I sound absolutely disgusting, that's why. So I'll start with some introductory details. Night at the Museum was released on December 17th of 2006.
So I would have been 8 years old.
And I would have been 6.
And you would have been 6.
This movie had 2 directors, Matt Danner and Sean Levy.
Speaking of Sean Levy, I did not know that he directed this movie until we watched it the other day, and I saw that it said a Sean Levy film. And I knew the name, and it's because he's going to be directing an upcoming Marvel movie. That's why.
Really?
Yeah, that's why it was like Sean Levy. I know that name, so I looked it up. That guy has directed so many movies that are like I couldn't believe how many hits he has under his belt.
Like what?
So here I'm gonna pull up his filmography, but I know he did Free Guy, which I'm not like. It's fine. It's okay, but I know a lot of people really like that movie. So Free Guy was a big hit a couple years ago. Night at the Museum, Real Steel, which I love that movie. I think it's a Hugh Jackman boxing movie. I saw it with my dad in theaters. Love that movie. Cheaper by the Dozen.
Oh.
The Adam Project, which I've never watched, but I guess was a big hit on Netflix. It's a series. The Pink Panther, the one with Steve Martin. Cheaper by the Dozen 2, Date Night, Steve Carell. We watched that movie, I think on our honeymoon. That very funny. He did the 2 Night at the Museum sequels. He did Arrival, which was that space movie with Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams where aliens show up. That was really well received. And he's done a handful of others too, but I had no idea that there were so many big hits that he had done.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
Okay, so this movie, I just put a shortened cast list because you could just go on and on. There's so many characters. So it's starring Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Robin Williams, Steve Coogan, Dick Van Dyke, Carla Gugino, Paul Rudd, Kim Raver, and Jake Cherry. It was distributed by 20th Century Studios. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 48 minutes. It's rated PG. It has a budget of $110 million, and the box office total was $574.5 million.
What was the budget again?
$110 million.
Wow. So, I mean, it did pretty well for being a low-cost movie, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But yeah, okay, cool.
Okay, so I'll jump into some fun facts. My first one is that Ben Stiller, who plays Larry, right? That's his name, Larry?
Yes.
And Owen Wilson, who plays Jedediah, which is the tiny cowboy man. They were actually only on set together for 1 day. Stiller talked to a toothpick for the Jedediah scenes the rest of
hilarious.
the shooting. And Owen Wilson filmed all of his parts 3 months later, actually.
Wow.
Another one is that Owen Wilson's character as Jedediah, like I said, was just supposed to be a cameo, but his character tested so well with the audience that they ended up expanding the role. Another one is that the language the Huns speak is completely improvised. None of it is scripted, so they're basically just
speaking gibberish
the whole time.
That truthfully doesn't surprise me.
Yes, and then The next one is, so you know the scene where they're letting the air out of the guy's tires?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Like Jedediah and what's
The
his
Roman
name?
general. I forget his name.
That's gonna bother me. I can't remember either. Anyways, there's a couple other like, you know, extras that are helping let out the air and
Yep.
holding on to each other and stuff. So one of them was a stuntman named Roger Lewis, and if you're planning to watch the movie, it's the cowboy person in a blue shirt.
Yep.
He broke vertebrae in his neck while filming that scene.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
Oh, it's Octavius.
Yeah, I
That's
was
the
just
name.
about to say it. I looked it up.
So he broke vertebrae in his neck while filming that scene. I'm guessing probably when he like had to fly backwards or something.
Probably.
Thankfully it was just a minor break and he was fine. But yeah.
Yep. Hey, before we get too far,
Yeah.
did you say Ricky Gervais in the cast?
Oh no, but I should have.
Big star there, and then Rami Malek, huge star. He more recent. He plays
what's his
Akhman
name?
Ra,
What's his
the
name, yeah.
pharaoh. He was the bad guy in No Time to Die, and he's the main character in Mr. Robot, which I've never seen, but I know it was a really like a huge TV show. I don't know, like 5 years ago or so. And then Mickey Rooney, he plays Gus, the old guy who wants to beat up Larry.
Yeah. Yes. I always know him from wait, you said who? The old guy, like the old night guard guy?
Yeah, he's the short night guard that wants.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I knew who you were talking about. I always think of him when I think of what's that Disney movie? Pete's Dragon. The old one. I don't know if you've
original.
seen that one.
I haven't seen the original. I've seen the newer one.
Yes. Okay. Anything else before I continue?
Nope.
Okay, so this movie was the second time that Steve Coogan played a miniature figurine. He's the one who played Octavius.
Yes.
The first one was in the Indian in the Cupboard movie.
Oh, really?
Yes. So he played a British Army medic, which I haven't seen that movie in years, but it used to be one of my faves when I was younger.
Yeah.
Okay, two more. My next one is that the script for this movie was originally written with Eddie Murphy in mind, but he had to turn it down because of a conflict in some kind of schedule. I think he was shooting another movie at the time or something. Yeah. But his brother, Charlie Murphy, actually does appear briefly. Do you know who he is?
Is he at the beginning of the movie?
No, he's actually toward the end.
Oh, really? No, I don't know.
He is the taxi driver when Rebecca is in the back and they see like the woolly mammoth cross the street and all the animals.
That is so funny now that you say that, because every time I watch that scene, I always thought that guy is doing his best Eddie Murphy impression, but it's unintentional because it's his brother.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah. And then my last fact is that in the scenes where Larry is getting chased by the T-Rex, Sean Levy, who was one of the directors, as we talked about earlier, kind of acted out being the T-Rex just so that way it could feel more real for Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
So he climbed up on a ladder and the ladder was on wheels and someone pushed him around chasing after Ben Stiller throughout the set. So I thought that
hilarious.
was funny.
Yeah. I love when directors do stuff like that just because like it's hard for actors who are interacting with like CGI characters and stuff.
Right.
And I give them a lot of credit for being able to do it believably. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's still a little, I think, goofy for actors to be interacting with guys who are in green suits. And so just going the extra mile for a director to do something like that, like I appreciate it. I think it shows that they care about the end product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, that is all that I have for fun facts. Do you have any production details?
I have very, very minimal. Finding production details on this was pretty hard, at least stuff that was interesting. So I don't even have the shooting schedule, which normally is extremely easy to find. So what I do have is that the building that they shot in, which was supposed to be the Natural History Museum, is not actually the Natural History Museum. It is a stage that they constructed, and they had it at a film studio in British Columbia, and they just shot everything there. They tried to make it a 1-to-1 recreation of the Natural History Museum. So nothing was actually filmed there, with the exception of using exterior video of the Natural History Museum just to make it, like outside shots. Outside of that, there was nothing filmed there.
Interesting.
Yeah. In addition to that, there are a lot of animals in this movie, but only one of them was real. The rest are CGI. Do you have a guess, or did I tell you this already?
Yes, you told me this already.
Well, the only animal that's actually real is Dexter, the capuchin monkey, which is actually a girl, and the monkey's name is Crystal in real life. So in order to work on the movie, trainers spent several weeks training Crystal. I think this is hilarious. They trained Crystal how to slap Ben Stiller and bite him, which I'm sure that they trained her how to do it in a way that was not super aggressive.
Right.
But I think it's just funny that they trained a monkey how to slap and bite people.
Yeah. I will say I saw that, and I also had seen, I'm sure the majority of people know that Ben Stiller didn't actually slap a monkey for those scenes where they're slapping back and forth. He slapped a tennis ball, but she actually slapped him.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yes.
I think that's hilarious. I would love to be slapped by a capuchin monkey just out of hilarity, to be able to have that on my resume as an actor, oh yeah, I got slapped by a monkey for this movie that I did. It's so random, but I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But anyways, outside of that, the only other detail that I have is that when Sean Levy was working on the movie, he said that casting was kind of hard until Ben Stiller signed on. Once Ben Stiller signed on to be the lead role, everybody else basically said hey, can I be a part of this movie?
Really?
Yeah, he said that he credits Ben Stiller for the big ensemble cast with Owen Wilson and Robin Williams and all these other great guys. They all wanted to be a part of it because of Ben.
They've got a loaded cast, honestly.
They really do.
They've got Paul Rudd in there too.
Yeah, and Paul has a 2-minute scene, if that, and he never shows up again.
Yeah.
Well, he has a second scene.
Yeah.
But that's it. He only has 2 scenes in the movie.
And so we watched these movies, a couple days before we record our podcast,
right,
just to kind of have it fresh in our minds. So before we had watched it this week, I probably hadn't seen this movie in at least 10 years.
I would say the same.
And
probably more than that.
Yeah. And I was just excited watching it again because, one, I recognize all these actors now because 10 years ago I would have been 13.
Right.
And so a lot of those characters or actors I didn't know. So I was oh my gosh, that's Paul Rudd. I never put it together
right,
that was him because I hadn't seen any Paul Rudd movies before this. And then also Kim Raver, and for those of you who don't know, she plays Teddy Altman in Grey's Anatomy, and so I was oh wow, there's another actress that I know, and so it was just kind of fun to see those things.
Yep, I agree. There was I watched this movie a ton as a kid. I actually, for those of you who don't know, I think I may have spoke about this on the podcast before, but growing up, I dealt with a lot of health struggles, a lot of health issues. Still do, but not the same as what it was when I was a kid. And anyways, I was in a lot of pain as a child, which made falling asleep hard sometimes. So in order to kind of distract my mind, I had a DVD player in my room, and I watched movies to help me fall asleep and kind of keep my mind occupied and not be too focused on the pain. And anyways, this is one of the movies that I watched all the time. I watched it constantly, and I definitely could not have told you hardly anybody that was in the cast having seen it before outside of Robin Williams, Owen Wilson, and Ben Stiller.
Right.
So I don't know. I love this movie. It holds a special place in my heart. And I think it's funny because when we work through a season, we pick out episodes together. And this is one that you brought up. I didn't even think to bring it up.
Yeah.
And even though I used to watch it a ton as a kid. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's all I have. why don't we go ahead and get into ratings? So how would you rate this movie? Scale of 1 to 100.
See, it's so hard because it's so nostalgic that I want to let that get in the way some.
Yes.
Because like you kind of said before, like it's not the standout like, oh my gosh, like what an amazing movie, you know?
Right.
Like it's a good one. And
Yep.
I think a lot of that like props goes to the big name actors in it. Like gosh, it's hard.
I agree. I think that I would just describe this movie as a classic.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way to describe it. It's not, it's not your Interstellar. It's
Right.
not a groundbreaking film that changed the industry, or it's not super deep. It doesn't make you think really, really hard.
Right.
And it's also not like a terrible movie either.
Right. Yeah.
But what it is it's all the way around good. It's funny. It's lighthearted. It's not something that I would say like is dispensable or easily forgettable in the sense that like it's not a throwaway film that's like you watch it once and you're like, yeah, that was good, but I don't really care to see it again.
Yeah. I could go the rest of my life without seeing it.
Right. It's definitely not one of those, but it's also not one of those ones where you watch it and you're like, oh man, I want to go back into the theater right now.
Yeah.
But it's timeless. I think I don't have any criticisms. I mean, if you really wanted to get deep, you could, I'm sure, criticize it about some things, but I don't think this is what that movie's meant to be.
Yeah.
It's funny, it's good, it's lighthearted, it's enjoyable, it's relatively clean, and it's a good story. It's also, on that note, very unique.
Yes.
There's, I think, conceptually, nothing else like this in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to be this night guard and everything in the museum comes to life. Like, it's an interesting concept.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and go first since I know you were
Okay.
struggling to rate it a little bit. I'm just going to give it an 83.
Okay.
I really kind of want to give it an 85 just so it's a round number because I feel like this is a well-rounded movie. But I'm just going to stick to my guns and I'm going to give it an 83.
I was going to say 85 before you rated it.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Is that where you're going to give it then?
that's what I'm going to give it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's talk about favorite scenes then, or favorite scenes or likes, dislikes.
Okay. I'm going to say a couple now that I can think of off the top of my head, but I might jump in later if I think of more.
Yep.
So I mean, this isn't one specific scene. I love Robin Williams. And
Yep.
so I love the majority of his scenes, especially like, like the little, childlike crush that he has on Sacagawea
Yes.
or Sacagawea, however you want to say it.
Right. Yeah.
So I really like all of the scenes with him. I think he does a great job, like, just portraying like the way that I would imagine Teddy Roosevelt to be. Like,
Right.
I think he does a good job with that. I also really like, most of the Owen Wilson and, what's his name?
He plays Octavius.
Yeah. Octavius, Steve Coogan.
Yeah.
I like their dynamic and their scenes together also.
Yep.
And I also really like that, like toward the end when they're like, everything's been resolved and they're kind of in the museum and you just see all of them like just kind of hanging out, like dancing and stuff. Like I like that scene too at the end.
When
Like-
Earth, Wind, and Fire is playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one I can think of off the top of my head is when Rebecca, I think her name is,
Yeah.
and she comes to the museum and like she knows now that everything comes to life and she sees Sacagawea and we know
Yeah.
that like she is obsessed with her and like learning more about her and things,
Right.
and just like seeing her excitement about getting to talk to her and learn more about her when she kind of had hit a wall. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think to your point about Robin Williams playing Teddy Roosevelt, I really love, I just love Teddy Roosevelt, or the wax Teddy Roosevelt. I'm just going to refer to him as Teddy Roosevelt, even though he's not Teddy Roosevelt in this movie. But I love how Robin Williams plays him. And I love the utilization of the character in the movie. Some of my favorite scenes, actually the two scenes that are my favorite, that immediately came to mind were dialogue from Teddy Roosevelt. So what I love about him is that he has this way of talking, which is, I would say, authentic to Teddy Roosevelt. And I believe that he's, this kind of man's man, hardcore, who has a way of speaking that's kind of been lost by today's standard, like saying bully and stuff like that. Like, he does that well.
Right.
But I love that the character is kind of like this, mentor or father figure, leader, whatever you want to call it, to Larry.
Yes.
In trying to assist him. I like the utilization of the character in that sense. I also really like that he tells Larry, this is one of my favorite scenes, that he says, some men are born great and some men have greatness thrust upon them. Mm-hmm. And, even outside of like the movie or the scene, the dialogue, whatever you want to call it, I do believe that that's just like a really cool way to kind of think about life and, the situations or opportunities that are in front of you, because I believe that that is true in a lot of senses. Take athletes, for instance. There are some men, women, athletes, whatever, who are born naturally gifted, and it's just unparalleled. You got someone like Michael Jordan, who's just a born great basketball player, but he also kind of had to work for it. So maybe you could argue that he had greatness thrust upon him because he did get cut from his high school basketball team. Or someone like Bo Jackson, who from early as a little kid was known to be this amazing baseball player, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, and football running backs too. So there is a reality there, but there are other people who aren't naturally gifted, but they have the drive, the energy, the desire, the discipline to go for it and work after it. And because of that, they have greatness thrust upon them. Mm-hmm. And so I think when you're processing kind of your life and the opportunities that you have, it's not necessarily one-to-one. I think kind of an easy cop-out for a lot of people who maybe have a victim mindset, or however you want to view it, is to say that, well, I wasn't born rich or with these opportunities that other people have. And yeah, that might be true. I wasn't, I'm not rich by any standards and wasn't born into wealth or anything. But I've had plenty of opportunity to work hard for the things that I want in my life. And I believe that because I've hustled hard and, just take, for instance, like woodworking. That's a hobby of mine that I enjoy. I would not say I'm a naturally gifted woodworker because I can't just pick up a chisel and carve something out of it, or I wasn't able to. I would still say that I'm not, but I've worked hard enough at it to the point where I can make stuff and sell it for money if I want to.
Right.
And I think it's all just a matter of perspective. But anyways, getting back to the movie and kind of on topic, I really appreciate that quote. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
One of my other favorite scenes is towards the end when Larry gets locked inside the Pharaoh's tomb exhibit or whatever, when he finds out that the old night guards are stealing all the stuff and they kind of lock him in there, and his son Jake is his name. Nicky. Nicky
Yes.
is his name. When Nicky's in there with him.
Jake is the actor's name.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a lucky guess. When they're in there and Teddy Roosevelt comes by on the horse and he says, Teddy, help me. And he said, this is your fight and whatever. And he's like, you did all this stuff. I'm not you, Teddy. He goes on and on, Larry does. And then Teddy just looks at him and he said, I never did any of those things. I'm just built out of wax.
Yeah.
And I don't have the courage to talk to a girl who I've been looking at for the last 12 years or whatever he says. And I really think that's a really powerful scene of vulnerability and honesty that's incredibly well acted by Robin. And I think that Robin does a really good job of not stealing the show when he's on camera, like kind of overshadowing Ben. But he does a really good job of having these super powerful scenes while simultaneously building up Larry or Ben's character.
Right.
I think that's super cool. And you don't see that a whole lot, which I believe is why Robin Williams was one of the greats. So is there anything else that is on your mind as far as some favorite scenes? Likes, dislikes?
No.
Characters, maybe?
No, but I did mean to mention this earlier. Just like another fun fact. So a lot of people probably already know this, but for those of you who don't, in the scene when Larry is, like out of a job, he's trying to figure out what he's going to do, and he's at that office.
Yes.
What was that office? Like, is it like an employment office? Like, cool.
I would assume. I don't even remember, but yeah.
So the lady that he's talking to that's like helping him is his mom, Ben Stiller's mom in real life.
Yes. She was also a comedian.
Yes.
And she was married to a comedian, Jerry Stiller.
Right.
Who plays Arthur on The King of Queens.
And she also is in
she was
show.
also on The King of Queens. She was Spence's mom.
Yes.
But it's hilarious to me that she plays that. Just the fact that she's in the movie is just kind of fun.
Yeah.
But also that she's like so easily mean to Ben Stiller's character, I think is hilarious.
Yeah. So sorry, that's off topic, but I just wanted to mention that before I forgot.
No, you're fine. I agree with you. I love Owen Wilson's character in Jedediah. I love all the scenes that he's in just because they're all really, really funny. Mm-hmm. I like the dynamic that Octavius and Jedediah have. The fact that they're, constantly battling. They play off of each other really well. And I love Owen Wilson. Like,
I do too.
Loki is one of our favorite Marvel shows.
Yes.
One of our favorite shows.
Favorite Marvel show. Yeah. Are you kidding?
One of our favorite shows just in general, just because it's really, really well done. And, I won't get into it because we're not here to talk about Loki. But Mobius, who is played by Owen Wilson, is by far and away my favorite character on that show.
Yes.
I would love for there to be more seasons just because I really love Loki and Mobius's dynamic. So anyways, I am absolutely partial to Owen Wilson because of that show. But I love Owen Wilson in this movie. He's very funny in all the scenes that he's in. I love, especially when Ben first starts interacting with him and, he keeps calling him Gigantor.
Yeah.
And then they tie him up on the railroad tracks and he's like, fire up the iron horse or whatever.
Yeah.
And full steam ahead. And then it's this little tiny train toy that just falls over. But I think all those scenes are hilarious.
Yeah.
Especially when they're letting the air out of the tires. That scene is really funny to me too.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. The fact that Dick Van Dyke is in this movie and alone is interesting or kind of funny, but the fact that he's the bad guy too is like, oh, that's wild,
That is crazy. I love him though.
Yeah.
I love him.
You know him from Mary Poppins, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like what you know him most from,
I
right?
I thought you were saying
no.
You know that he's in Mary Poppins, right?
No,
yes.
I'm saying that's how you know him.
That
right?
is how I know him. Yes.
Yes. Okay. He also had a show, the Dick Van Dyke Show, back in the day.
Okay, I think I might have
before our
known
time
that.
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. Cool. Well, the Easter Island head.
Yes.
Voiced by Brad Garrett.
Yes.
whom
Another
we love.
Amazing actor.
Love him. Robert on Everybody Loves Raymond, which
Yes.
is also a hilarious show.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, I'm trying to think of other details or anything. I love that Ricky Gervais is in here as like the museum proctor or whatever his title is. He's like the doctor who curates all the exhibits and everything.
Yeah. He's hard to recognize without his facial hair.
He had, oh yeah, you're right. He was shaved in the movie. Yeah. I mean, I felt like I still recognized him.
I mean, yeah, you can tell it's Ricky Gervais, but
recognize.
I'm just used to seeing him with a beard is what I should have said.
Yes. But I think his scenes are pretty funny too, where he's like just kind of being a jerk to Larry.
And he's always at a loss for words, it seems.
Yeah. And he's just like, you're fired. Get out of here. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And all this stuff. Like, it's just funny that he has a few scenes here and there in the movie. And yeah, I really like this movie. It's a fun, all the way around fun film. Mm-hmm. Cool. Do you have anything at all to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Shorter episode.
It is a shorter episode. Let's talk about the first scene. I'm getting some more content out there for our fans.
Okay.
So not the first scene, but the first scene where everything comes to life.
Like the T-Rex and stuff.
Yeah. So the first time that you saw that, what did you think?
I honestly don't remember the first time I saw it, but I do remember some thoughts I had this time I watched it. I thought that the CGI was impressive for being 2006, and I also liked the shots from like when the camera's kind of like inside the T-Rex's head, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. Just giving it a perspective of like we can see all of Larry's reactions, but also it's just like a unique camera angle, I guess.
Yeah, I thought the same thing when I watched it this time around, just that like not only that the camera's inside the T-Rex's head, but also that it was turning from side to side to look at Larry, which is, I mean, I don't know.
Like through the eye holes.
Exactly. I don't know how a T-Rex would act because they've been extinct for a while, but the idea of like its eyes are on either side of its head, so having to look kind of turning its head either way. I thought that was a fun detail that they included. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember, I mean, maybe not the first time I watched it, but at least when I was little, seeing that, I thought that was so cool. I really liked the reveal of like him hearing the water fountain running and walking over to the hallway and shining the light. And then you get the big reveal that like the T-Rex is there getting a drink of water and everything. And that it's like this articulated toe bone that's pushing down on there. It's just like the whole thing is cool. I as a little kid, I was like, oh man, that's so awesome. But watching it as an adult, it's still awesome. But the way it's revealed with like Ben Stiller, Larry being scared and dropping the light or the flashlight, and the T-Rex chasing after him, I think that whole sequence is cool.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah. And then just like it's obviously funny and very, it's a kid movie. When the dog when Rexy, the T-Rex, starts acting like a dog, wanting to play fetch with his bone.
Yeah.
Like I think that's funny too.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other stuff that could be added. I think the whole idea of them having like a Civil War room from that era in history, it's, I guess, just hilarious when you think about like everything comes to life and that those guys, that's all they're doing is just fighting
yeah.
the entire time. That's all that they do. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty funny too.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I don't think I have anything else to add.
Okay.
Sweet. Well, it is that time of year once again, guys. Christmas is almost upon us. Just had Thanksgiving, and now we're heading into December, and we are embracing Christmas with full force. We're going to do 4 weeks of Christmas movies, and next week we're going to be doing our first film, which is Home Alone. That is currently streaming on Disney+. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. Our family, my family, even before Emily and I got married, We used to watch it every year on Christmas Eve, late at night, and then we'd all go to bed. So holds a special place in my heart. I'm excited about jumping into it.
Yes, it's a good one for sure.
Yeah, one of the all-time Christmas classics.
Yes, yeah.
But anyways, we're excited about it. We hope you guys join us next week. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and we hope that, this Christmas season isn't too busy for you. So try to slow down and enjoy all of it and not be stressed out by the shopping and family and coordinating and everything else. But just slow life down a little bit, enjoy the time, and otherwise, we appreciate you guys. We hope you have a great week.
Bye.
Take care.